and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my God, it hurts so bad.
So I just got punched in the face walking home.
I was assaulted by a man in New York City a couple hours ago.
I literally just got punched in the face by a homeless man. I have fallen victim to the men in New York City lifting an elbow or trying to punch innocent girls.
New York women are being punched in the face by random men in what some people are calling a TikTok trend, and others are calling random acts of violence. Which one is it? Does it matter? Okay, so the short answer is absolutely not, but you should definitely stick around right here for the long answer. Now, the timeline of when this entire thing started is a bit murky. The first video posted about being punched was on March 25th by influencer Hallie Kate McGuckin, who currently has 1.2 million followers. However, it seems that the first punching may have occurred as early as March 20th. Hallie's viral video depicting the moments right after being punched went viral with over 50 million views and was followed by video after video after video of women coming out with their own stories. Some videos have shared qualities like looking down at a phone, while others have random tidbits like the attacker apologizing before attacking. But they all happen to women, and they all happened at the hands of men. For anyone being punched in the face, it seems like a pretty easy assault and battery charge. But let's dig a little deeper than that. New York law differs from both the model penal code and most states in this particular feature. New York doesn't make a distinction between assault and battery. In most jurisdictions, a battery is an unwanted touching. And to be clear, a face punch is an unwanted touching, unless you consent. Of course, it's way worse than that, but as a threshold issue, it is at least that. And then an assault is the act of putting someone in fear or in anticipation of an imminent unwanted touching. By this, I mean that the victim needs to see the assailant coming in order for the impending battery to also be an assault. So, for example, if you are staring at your phone and you don't see the moron that's about to hit you, and then he hits you, that's a battery, but not an assault. But if he hits you a second time, and this time you see that he is going to hit you, well, the second swing is both a battery and an assault, but not in New York. In New York, the fear of the contact, what's commonly known as an assault in most places, is not a crime. Only the contact itself is, which New York doesn't call a battery, but instead an assault. It's a little wrinkle, but to me, it's worth noting. And under New York law, there are 3 levels of assault. Let's run through those briefly before we analyze the attacks that are making the rounds on TikTok. In New York, assault just isn't one offense. It's a spectrum with escalating severity and consequences. Starting at the bottom is assault in the 3rd degree, often termed simple assault. This entails causing harm with intent, regardless of the extent. And yes, I did just spit some bars. This entails causing harm with intent, regardless of the extent. Regardless of the extent. This entails causing harm with intent, regardless of the extent. It may seem minor, but it's punishable by up to a year in jail. And moving up, we encounter assault in the 2nd degree. Here, the stakes are higher. Intent to cause harm paired with any actual harm or causing serious harm regardless of intent elevates it up to a violent Class D felony. Jail time is mandatory. And then there's assault in the 1st degree. This is the pinnacle of severity. It involves intent to cause grave physical harm.
Grave danger? Is there another kind?
With a weapon or dangerous instrument, or causing injury with the intent to disfigure or amputate. Yeesh! It's classified as a Class B violent felony, carrying minimum sentences starting at 5 years and reaching up to 25 years. Those charges demand the utmost gravity, but let's address a crucial question. Must there be physical injury for assault charges to apply? Yes and no. Or as Tommy would say, it depends. For a legitimate assault charge, significant injury is a prerequisite. But even in the absence of physical harm, attempted assault charges can be levied, leading to substantial prison sentences. It's a nuanced legal landscape. In most of the viral videos, it appears that the attacker or the victim ran away from the situation before it escalated even further, so we haven't really seen any kind of physical self-defense by these women, which of course is fine. In scenarios like this, the most important thing is getting away to safety. But in some situations, that may require self-defense. In New York, self-defense law allows individuals to use reasonable force to protect themselves or others from imminent danger of harm or unlawful force. However, the force used must be proportional to the threat faced. Deadly force can only be justified if there's a reasonable belief of imminent death or serious bodily harm. In other words, probably not a good idea to gun down someone who punches you and then runs away. And by probably not, I do mean definitely not. And if you shoot them in the back, it might never, ever be considered defense. And it depends on where the attack is. There's no duty to retreat inside of one's own home, but outside the home, retreat is required if it's safe to do so, except in certain circumstances. Self-defense claims are evaluated based on the facts of each case individually. Pepper spray is always going to be fine. A gun is always going to be, problematic? But to be clear, an unprovoked attack by a stranger in the city is likely going to engender wide latitude from a jury if the victim were to just go off and go ham on the attacker. But then also, it's clear that this guy or this group of guys is targeting distracted females who don't appear to him to pose a great risk of violent defense. What a stud. Just remember, you can lawfully be violent to defend yourself. It just has to be reasonable. And generally speaking, you have to retreat if possible. And shooting someone in the back is not self-defense. According to police, there have been a dozen reported incidents and 6 arrests. 2 additional suspects have been identified, and the department does not believe that the attacks are due to a TikTok trend. Also, the captain doesn't know what TikTok is. And kudos to the cops for understanding how numbers work. Math. Because there are millions of people in New York City, and half a dozen face punches are not a trend. In fact, statistically, they aren't anything. But the power of social media is in part to shine a light on something that you didn't otherwise know about, or make you think about something that you didn't otherwise care about. You know, getting your attention. And just because there's more than 100 million views across this pastiche of similar videos, that doesn't mean that there's an actual crime spree, or that the attacks are new or more frequent, or that these guys are coming for you right now. Now, I hate to say this, but sometimes social media can lead us to make conclusions that aren't grounded in statistics.
That is not true.
I know, it's hard to hear someone speak so poorly of viral videos, but it's true. I'm sorry you had to hear it from me. So what happens to the attackers? Do we string them up by their feet in the town square? Unfortunately, not quite. But you know what might be appropriate for those guys is the old-timey stocks where you put your head and your wrist through the little holes in the wooden walls. People come by, spit on them. No, we don't do anything like that. That might actually be efficacious for retraining bad behavior, but we haven't done stuff like that in hundreds of years. Actually, the punishment or punishments are likely to be fairly underwhelming, at least in my opinion. The entire criminal justice system is designed to divert people away from meaningful punishment, at least as far as it being punishment. And we focus more instead on rehabilitation and prevention. So don't expect anyone to do hard time for something like these face punches, not without the use of a weapon. Now, that's the criminal side though. Of course, if you want to sue them civilly, to get money, you could, but you can't get any money from people who don't have any, money? One arrested attacker was hit with misdemeanor charges of third-degree assault, attempted assault, and harassment in connection with his attack. Another faces misdemeanor assault and harassment charges. If the assailant doesn't have a meaningful criminal history, the justice system is going to try pretty hard to keep them out of prison. And by definition, a misdemeanor is less than 1 year in detention. And of course, one thing we haven't said, but it bears discussion, is that while there are people who are just evil and who would do something like this for sport and just in pursuit of wickedness, for most of the assailant, there's going to be a very obvious component of mental illness or psychological distress, which means that jail or prison makes things worse for them, not better. And as a society, we have not come up with any sort of scalable remedy for criminal behavior that's the result of mental illness. And as far as I can tell, we aren't really trying. Many people have taken the incidents as an opportunity to give their thoughts on the overall safety of New York City, especially following the decision by New York Governor Hochul to deploy the National Guard and state police in the subway system. So what are your thoughts? Do you see these incidents as a sign that the entire city is becoming unsafe? Or are the viral videos simply creating this impression? Please drop your pro se opinion down below in the comments. And stay safe out there. And if the subscribe button hits you, hit it back. The guy has his neck and his and to the and stay out there.